Hello, everyone. My name is David Green Jr., and I am your news reporter today, reporting live from the Green Room in Gainesville, Florida. Today, my family and I will be sharing two things with you. The first is that we will be sharing several stories about Bob and Emma King. Also, in this newscast, we will learn that we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Now, you must understand that Bob and Emma King were born in the late 1800s. Emma King was born in 1892, and Bob King was born in 1872. Notice, if you will, that this was soon after slavery was abolished in 1865. And the reality is, since 1865, so much has happened. We have seen many civil rights activists on the front lines fighting for our freedom. And they are Rosa Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, Malcolm X, and Stephen A. Green. Since 1865, we have seen so many who have lost their lives and had their lives snatched away by crooked cops and white supremacists. And their names are Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery, just to name a few. But I believe today that if we have the strength to move forward while still looking back, everything will be all right. So if you don't mind, let's take a look at some things that have happened from 1865 to 2021.
Evening, family from the Cephas household. I'm here with Mom, and for this Zoom presentation, Mom is going to talk about an experience she had as a child back in the 40s riding a bus. Because Mom had a severe burn on her leg as a child, Mama Emma didn't want her to ride the school bus because she had to walk too far. So Mama Emma sacrificed a nickel a day for Mom to ride the city bus that was a lot closer to the house. So one day Mom was on the city bus and the seats were two individual seats towards the front and a bench seat in the back. And one day Mom got on the bus and she sat on one of the individual seats. And what happened when you sat on the individual seat?
When I sat on the individual seat, the little white girl who's my age asked me not to sit there, to sit on the bench seat. And I told her no, I was not going to move. So she went to the bus driver and told him that little black child back there would not move so I could sit in front of her. She wanted me to sit on the bench seat. And after he told the bus driver, he said, little girl, you're going to have to move back so this white girl could sit. I said, okay. But when the little white girl asked me to move, I told her no. Because she was a young girl. She was about my age and wanted me to sit in the back because she did not want to be close to any black people sitting next to them. So when the bus driver came and told me that I needed to move, I didn't move because my mother always told me to obey older people. That being the bus driver, I felt that I should move, and I did. And the reason I had to ride the bus because of my leg, I got burned, and I couldn't
Walk to the bus stop.
walk to the other bus. Mr. Reynolds had a bus there in Happy Hollow. A lot of you may know where Happy Hollow is. And everybody who went to school was the pie shop next school. And pie shop school is right across the street from Antioch Church. And all the black children had to ride that bus. It was an old raggedy bus that he had, that he drove to pipe shop school. And the bus that I rode was for white only. And only I was the one. My mother made sure that I would get on the bus and go to that same school. And the name of the school was Pipe Shop Junior. What was it? Elementary school.
Pipe Shop Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I don't think that I've ever heard of discrimination from that time, from child to child. It's always been adult to adult or adult to child. That's interesting to me.
I don't know that usually back in the 40s, that's what she was so, you know how those white girls would be. They felt that
They were privileged.
privilege, exactly.
Right. That's what they were
Mhm.
taught.
Mhm.
That's how
And-
their parents felt.
Exactly. And that particular day, I was going to sit on that seat where two
The two individual seats.
individuals sit.
Go ahead, Rosa Parks, to be. It's like, no, I'm not giving up my seat. Well, you did what you thought was right at the time, but when the adult came in, I mean, you were given no choice. I mean, you had to move.
Exactly.
But yeah, a child your age should not think they had the right to come and ask you
To move.
to give up a seat just so she wouldn't have to sit on the bench seat that was reserved for the people of color, which is
Okay.
not her.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Anything you want to add?
No.
All right. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Today I will be interviewing Mrs. Willie Mae Henderson King, who is the wife of Clarence Pijo King. How are you today, Miss Willie Mae King?
Oh, I'm blessed.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. First off, can you tell me when and where you were born?
I was born in Bessemer, Alabama, August the 29th, 1930.
Okay. All right. All right. So, can you tell me about some of your memories of being a child? What are some of the memories that you can tell us about?
Well, some of the memories that I can say is my mother passed when I was I was 7 going on 8 years old. I was going to be 8 years old in August. And from that time, we had to make a transition. My father, I had to go and stay with my father. And there, I had a stepmother. And she did the best that she could with 4 children. And my dad, he worked at the U.S. Pipe and Foundry. And at that time, they wasn't making much money. That was, they was just barely, they wasn't making hourly wages like the people are making now. And when I got old enough, about, I would say about 10 or 11, a lady lived down the street from me. It was a white lady, and she asked my dad, could I come down and help her? And at that time, that's the most work that blacks had was working for the white people, taking care of their families and cooking for them. But I was too young for that. But that's the job that the black peoples had mostly, like to take care of the white families. And she said yes, so I would get up in the morning that was when I started to go to high school. I would get up in the morning and go down there, and it wasn't too much to do, but it was just a little something where she just wanted to help. And I would eat breakfast and I would wash the dishes, eat breakfast, fix me a little lunch, and then I would whatever chores she had. It wasn't too much, but after I got through with that, I would have to come back home and get ready to go to school. And that afternoon, I would go back down there and whatever little chores she had for me to do. And I really didn't know then how she was just trying to help me. And after I gotten older, I learned, I realized how to appreciate what she did for me, helping me, because of the fact that it was that we didn't have the facilities at our school like the white had at their schools, lunch rooms, and we had to carry our own lunch. So with 4 children, not 4, well, I would say 3 at that time, trying to fix a lunch for us and get things ready. So that helped me. And as she was helping, as I was helping her, she was helping me. And sometimes I realize now that I did learn a lot from her, because she taught me a lot. I would, whatever she'd be doing, I would be right with her. She had a big garden. I'd be out there with her in the garden, helping. And whenever they would go out, sometimes there were places that blacks could not go. And like to certain theaters and certain places that white could go, blacks could not go. And because of I was with them, and they had grandchildren, they would ask me, did I want to go? And I say, yeah. And they could carry me. That's the only way the blacks could go, because of the fact that if you work for that family, you could go with them. But otherwise, for instance, they had a theater in Bessemer, and only whites could go to that theater. But if you worked for a white person, then you could go. They could carry you. So there were some places that I got to go that the only blacks could go, like I don't ever remember until they segregated that blacks could go to that theater in Bessemer, until they segregated it. And there was, and I stayed down and I worked for her actually until I finished school. And she would always say I was her daughter. Yeah, she said, May, just like my daughter. She called me May, just like my daughter. And I do appreciate, the Lord just placing me in their care because all her children was grown, and she had grandchildren. But I didn't realize at that time, but afterward and seeing the difference in the times and how things were, that you never experience things, you never think about things until the end. And I can remember, like, when I used to ride the bus, we would walk a lot, but when I would ride the transit bus, you had to pay in the front and walk back to the back and get on the bus, and they would have a sign in the bus say colored, and white, and they would have the most of the bus would be for the white. And if the little part back there for the blacks would get crowded, then he would move it up a couple of seats. But blacks had a hard time. I sure appreciate the struggle that Martin Luther King and all Abernathy and what the man just died, John. I do appreciate the struggle that they went through, and they gave their life for us to have this freedom that we have, and it's just so that the younger people just don't realize the struggle that they went through, and so they could be who they are now. If it hadn't been for Martin Luther King and all the rest, black people would not be up in the White House. Black people would not have have jobs walking around with suits on. And it's just so that our black people, our young black men should strive to do better and appreciate and strive to move on up and not do all these things that they don't have to do. When people's made a way for you, you should appreciate it.
Okay, all right. So first thing, Mom, we're gonna talk about Miss Jordan at the grocery store when you and Grandma Perlalis saw her.
Oh, okay. My parents owned a grocery store, and I worked at the grocery store. We had whites on one side of the store and blacks on the other. So all the white people would come over and trade with us. And one lady in particular, I remember, Miss Joy, and she would come in and just have fun and laugh with us and everything in the store. One day, Mom and I was downtown Bessemer shopping, and I saw her. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I was like, "Oh, Mom, there's Miss Jordan. Let's go say hi to her." Mama grabbed my hand and pulled me across the street. We went across on the other side, and I didn't know why. So when we got home later, Mama told me, she said, "Virginia, we can't talk to Miss Jordan when we out in public like that." And I said, "Why?" She said, "We don't know. We could get hurt, or they might start calling her a nigger lover. And then she'll be, not that she doesn't care about us, but then they'll be after her." So that was one thing was shocking to me at such an early age.
Yeah. Tell us the story about when you guys would drive across country and you could not use the restroom.
Oh, we would drive from Alabama to Los Angeles. And the first time we left, I remember Ellis was so tired. We was in Louisiana. So we had to get off the highway and go find a hotel that was for blacks. When we woke up the next morning, we didn't know it was a whoop shack that we was in, but we had to find the black area. Then later,
what is a whoop shack, Mom?
A whoop shack is where people do 1 hour treatments. Okay, that's what they called a whoop shack back in the day.
Okay.
They only be there for an hour. And another experience we had was we were in Flagstaff, and we pulled over. We wanted something to eat. So we asked this white person, we saw him on the street. We said, "Hey, will you have somewhere you think we can eat? He said, oh, there's a restaurant right down the street. So we had Nellie, she was a baby, and another friend of Ellis's and I was on our way to California. And we just knew it was okay to go in. We walked in the door, and as soon as we hit the door, it was complete silence. Nothing. So we looked around. So we walked on in and we sat down, and the guy came over, the cook, he came over and told us, he said, I'm sorry, we can't serve y'all at this place. He said, but I see you have a baby. So if you come in the back, I'll fix some food and stuff for you all and the baby. And it was so nice. And he took us in the back and he fixed us a huge meal and got milk for Natalie. And it was just amazing how some people are nice, but he couldn't serve us because they might have tore his place up. So we don't know. Mm-hmm. And then the restroom situation, that was definitely we only bought gas when we could use a restroom. We would ask if they had a restroom before we bought the gas. So then they'll say yes. Then we go to use the restroom. On the left, it's white women. On the right, white men. In the back, it just said colored. And I remember going back there once, and Allie was about 4 or 5. We was traveling in, and we got in that restroom. It was absolutely horrible. Being a little kid, she says, I'm not going to use this nasty restroom. I'm not using this nasty restroom. That was Natalie. So anyway, we experienced that for all during the 60s, crossing country, most of the time when we go back and forth. So we didn't have nowhere to stop and eat. So Granny and Mom and everybody would fry up all the chicken they could fry, make all the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and whatever we had, that's what we ate.
Wow.
Oh, we did have a really bad incident. I remember in Tyler, Texas. It's a little bit of a story, but anyway, Ellis and I was on our way to California, and they had packed us a lunch. We stopped in Tyler because we was looking for a roadside. When we got there, it was 2 people sitting there, a white man and a woman. It was only one table. So Ellis and I and Natalie, we started over to the table with our food, and the white man jumped up and he was like, you can't sit here. Well, believe it or not, Ellis, he went to his car. Ellis ran to the trunk of his car because Ellis had him a gun. This man probably had a gun. Well, anyway, believe it or not, he looked at our tag number. At that time, it was 1B meant Bessemer. He was in a 1B Bessemer. Mm-hmm. So when he was going his way to Bessemer. We was on our way to California. So when we get to California, Bessie called and asked us what kind of trouble had we gotten in Texas. And Sweet Tea said, what do you mean? She said the police had been out there to the house looking for Sweet Tea. And it was probably because of the incident. And we stayed in LA for about a week. So by the time we got back, Sweet Tea had to go to court. I don't know. It was his mother knew all the white people downtown. That helped. She worked on a place with a white doctor. And I think that helped. But for such a thing that wasn't even in Bessemer. And he was, so you can imagine what he was going through.
Wow. When we talked earlier, mm-hmm. you and Louise mentioned that your parents taught you what to do and what not to do, so that you wouldn't get in any trouble. Can you share?
Right. Well, what we were saying is that we was kind of sheltered. As when we got older, they would tell us stores, we couldn't go and sit downtown at the counter. We knew that. So we were saying that we didn't go through a lot of things that other kids, because we didn't have to work for the white people. My dad was fortunate enough to send us to college. Otherwise, we would have had to end up working in a white home and been treated whatever. But it turned out that we didn't have to. So our parents kind of taught us. And Sweet Tea, my husband, said the men taught them how to protect themselves when he started getting to be a young man, because the black men had it much harder than we did. And it was really kind of different.
Can you tell us what do you mean by hard when you said it was hard for us?
Well, it was kind of hard because, like, for instance, Louise had to take the bus to school. And like, if she was sitting I took the bus sometime, but not as much as she did because she had to go often. And sometimes she would be sitting on the bus, and if she was sitting up front and some more white people got on, they would just, it was a thing like had white on this side, and they would take it and take it off the seat. It was sitting on the seat in front of her. They would take it and move it behind her. So she had to get up and move all the way to the back behind that sign so she could sit. So there were times when the black people had to get up to let the white people sit, to get on the bus. It was that's just the way it was. And we didn't complain. And then they would be all stuck in the back like sardines, but then they wouldn't stop and pick up blacks if they knew they didn't have enough space. Or if you would pay, you had to pay and then go to the back of the bus and get on.
Can you tell them how much it was to get on the bus?
It was about a nickel, a dime to get on the bus. So you had to keep a nickel, a dime. I know another thing they taught us too. They always gave us a dime and a dollar when we went out. They gave us a dollar in case we need to eat or something. They gave us a dime to call home. It was a dime to make a phone call. So that's why we say a dollar and a dime.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you this question, Mom. You guys were talking about a lady named Arthurine going to University of Alabama and a motorcade.
Oh, yeah. We lived on the highway. And Arthurine Lucy was really the first black to go to the University of Alabama. Although I think another girl graduated before she did. But Arthurine Lucy had lived in Birmingham. Tuscaloosa, which you know how far Tuscaloosa is from Birmingham. At that time, there was no freeway. You just had a highway. So every morning about 7 o'clock or 7:30, a motorcade would take her to the University of Alabama, and we could hear the sirens. So all the black people, especially, we would stand out on the highway and we would see that motorcade going down the highway, and about 2:30 or 3, the motorcade would take her back. So every day she had to get up and take a motorcade. And George Wallace would not let her walk through that door at the time, but before it was over, he did. He moved. She got in. And the blacks couldn't go to the University of Alabama. Loretta was one of them. She wanted to get a master's. They paid for her to go to the University of Indiana. Alabama paid her to go to the University of Indiana. So all the blacks had to go to a school out of Alabama. Indiana was just as prejudiced, but it was just a little piece up the road.
I am Sandra King Nixon. I am the granddaughter of Bob and Emma King. My story happened in September 1971 when integration was enforced. We were bused to Hueytown High School. There was a bus for blacks and a bus for whites. The white bus would come early and the bus for the blacks would come late. As we entered the school on the very first day, our bus was egged and had rocks thrown at it for 2 days, and we were sent back home. On the third day, our parents, Dot King, Geraldine Webster, Bobby Burns, and others followed the bus to school with rags on their head and dusters. 2 of the parents went to each class. They followed the bus for 3 consecutive days. By Monday, we were allowed to go to school with no problem. And the students were told, the white students that is, were told that if they did not come to school, they could not make up the work. It was amazing to go to classrooms to see things that we had not had in the black school, such as electric typewriters and advanced chemistry classes and math materials that we had not seen. It was scary and exciting. The next year, 1973, I graduated from Hueytown High School with an advanced academic diploma. And believe it or not, that year, our valedictorian was a black female. That is my story.
Hi, I'm Vlanetha McCaslin Stewart, the daughter of Thelma King McCaslin and Nathaniel McCaslin. I was born 7 months premature, and because I was an African-American baby, I was placed in an incubator that had only 70% oxygen. White babies were given 100% oxygen. But it turns out, by God's mercy, that 100% oxygen burns up the retina. As a result, while I cannot see well without glasses, I literally cannot see the big E, I am able to see because of the love of my family and divine intervention. So I was born before 1960 when hospitals were still segregated and African American babies were not valued. But I did survive, and I also am able to see, and I am able to enjoy my family because of what happened to me as a premature baby. Blessings to all, and we should not take our blessings for health care for granted and know that even as newborn babies, we were dealing with segregation and racism. Have a blessed day, and please remember our history. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, my name is Pam Files, and I'm the great-grandchild of Emma and Bob King. I'm my ancestors' greatest dream. I can remember when I was a little girl, my mother would take me over to my grandmother's house, and we would sit and have tea and eat toast. That was our big thing. But she would always talk to me about going to college, that was really important for Black people to do, to become something. And it didn't matter what college I went to, as long as I went to college, I got an education, and I did all I could do. And I'm glad to say that I went to college and I graduated from the University of Alabama, and then I went back and got a master's. And I want to thank my grandmother, who I was her greatest dream.
Hi, I'm Brianna Beecham. I'm the great-granddaughter of Bob and Emma King, and I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I am Caleb Perkins. I'm the great-great-grandson of Bob and Emma King, and I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I am Haley Perkins. I am the great-great-granddaughter of Bob and Emma King, and I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I am Corey King. I am the great-great-great-grandson of Bob and Emma King, and I am my ancestors' wildest dream.
My name is Marlia King Cook, and I am the great-great-granddaughter of Bob and Emma King, and I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I'm King. The great-great-granddaughter of Bob and Emma King, and I am my ancestors' wildest dreams.
I'm Xavier Fowles. I'm my great-great-grandson of Emma and Bob King. I'm the great dreams. I was on the MAL team this year, and I'm an A-honor student. I'm planning to go to college when I grow up.
Hello? Are we on? Okay. Listen. Let me first start off by saying thank you to all of you who participated in this broadcast. All of these stories and all of the people who declared that you are your ancestors' wildest dreams had so much information and inspiration. It is amazing to know that we are not the only ones who are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Because when I began to think about Barack Obama, who was the first elected Black president of these United States of America, we are not the only ones who are our ancestors' wildest dreams. When I think about Kamala Harris, who was the first Black elected vice president of these United States of America, we are not the only ones who are our ancestors' wildest dreams. I hope that this newscast has blessed you today. But before we end this broadcast, I just have one request, and that is for you to be not dismayed. Whatever the time, God will take care of you. God bless you and God keep you. He is my